Chapter 383, Attracting Attention. As the night wore on, Bai Xiaochun became obsessed with pill concocting in a way that was completely different from before. By the time the sun rose, he had concocted 50 ultra-fasting 8 pills, whereupon he hurried out of his spirit abode toward the public square. This time, he had barely set up his vendor stall and put the medicinal pill bottles out before a whole crowd of cultivators had gathered, pushing and shoving in their madness to buy some of the pills. It didn't take long before all 50 of the ultra-fasting 8 pills were gone. Bai Xiaochun was completely taken aback. However, after a bit of thought, he realized why the pills sold so quickly. Compared to the outrageously expensive spirit food in the city, the pills were very cheap. Furthermore, they were so effective that no one could possibly be unmoved by them. After some consideration, though, Bai Xiaochun decided not to raise his prices. As far as he was concerned, the inhabitants of the city had things rough as it was, and besides, he was already making a great profit. However, the next day as he was passing by a random shop, he noticed to his astonishment that they had an ultra-fasting 8 pill for sale for 3,000 merit points. Upon arriving at the public square, he couldn't even sit down before 8 cultivators rushed over and began fighting over the chance to be first in line. And furthermore, all of them wanted to buy his entire supply of pills. By now, Bai Xiaochun was on guard, and after a bit of observation, came to the realization that these cultivators were all employees of various shops in the East District. Obviously, they wanted to purchase the pills at a low price and then resell them for profit. Bai Xiaochun was not very pleased at all, and immediately established a new rule governing sales. Each customer could only purchase one pill at the normal price. The second pill would be twice as expensive. The same went for the third pill. However, this new rule wasn't very effective. After all, the cultivators in Sky City were most unscrupulous. Bai Xiaochun simply ignored that, though, and continued selling pills for 7 days. By that point, he had accumulated close to 100,000 merit points. Meanwhile, the matter of the ultra-fasting 8 pills in the East District had caused quite a commotion. Many people had heard of them, including certain powerful organizations in the city. There were countless such organizations in Sky City, which were essentially gangs of cultivators. The largest and most powerful of them was the Celestial Sky Society, which controlled nearly 80% of the shops. With that monopoly, and the fact that they were backed by a Deva clan, no one ever dared to provoke them. When it came to the East District, there was no single person from the Celestial Sky Society who ran it, but rather, there were 3 of them, all of them famous orange-robed disciples. Currently, they were meeting in a secret location, serious expressions on their faces as they studied an ultra-fasting 8 pill. They took turns holding it in their hands and looking at it from all angles. None of them spoke, and a bit of time passed before someone called out greetings from outside of the secret chamber. Standing outside was an old man with a full head of white hair. He was surrounded by a strong medicinal aroma, and as soon as he entered, the 3 orange-robed cultivators rose to their feet and greeting him respectfully. The old man didn't waste any words. Pointing at the ultra-fasting 8 pill, he said, "This pill contains 123 different types of medicinal effects. The combination of so many types of effects can lead to infinite variations. I have never seen anything like it in my life. In terms of ingredients, it contains 19 different varieties of medicinal plant, which, when merged together, give rise to those 123 different medicinal effects. If my speculations are correct, a unique concoction method was used to produce the pill. Whoever concocted it might not have overall skill in the Tao of medicine to rival my own, but when it comes to the techniques of mutual augmentation and suppression, he definitely is my superior." This old man had spent several days researching the pill, and had been left completely shaken by what he saw. One of the 3 orange-robed disciples couldn't help but ask, "Is there any way you can reproduce the formula and technique so that we can concoct it ourselves?" "Apparently you didn't understand what I just said. Let me put it this way, not only have I never heard of an ultra-fasting 8 pill before, even after researching it, I can assure you that the formula is not like anything I've ever seen before. There are some flaws to it, but consuming it won't cause any significant harm. At worst, it might cause some temporary damage to one's vital energy. However, any such damage will quickly be repaired. Furthermore, after consuming the pill, a cultivator will be able to stave off the draining of their energy for about half a month. In the final analysis, I am convinced that someone recently invented this pill formula. Do you really think that I can simply analyze and reproduce such a powerful, recently invented pill formula? I don't have that level of skill." Eyes shining brightly, the old man continued, "However, what I can do is take an existing pill and possibly split it up into more than one pill. Unfortunately, that would reduce the quality and make the side effects worse." The 3 orange-robed disciples didn't respond. All of them knew that if these pills continued to be concocted and sold to the inhabitants of Sky City, it would have a seriously detrimental effect on the sale of spirit food. In fact, it could even end the industry altogether. Obviously, the Celestial Sky Society had no desire for the status quo to change. If only they could acquire the pill formula, then they would be able to get a handle on the situation, and perhaps even prevent the pill from being concocted. The 3 orange-robed disciples exchanged glances, and then 2 of them turned to the third. Killing people violates the rules set forth by the Starry Sky Dao polarity sect, said one of the two, so we should avoid that if possible. Even the main headquarters agrees with that. Both of the men clasped hands respectfully. Therefore, fellow Daos Joe, would it be possible for you to get in contact with the cultivator selling this pill, and somehow acquire the pill formula? If not, well, HMPH, I guess we could use the cooperation method. Meanwhile, Bai Xiaochun had been enjoying life for the past 7 days. He was both pleased and shocked at his rapidly growing accumulation of merit points, and had been constantly splurging on the most expensive spirit foods. He had even gone to the magic pavilion to buy a large collection of magical items and defensive treasures. What excited him most was that in Sky City, there were certain shops that sold beast mounts. The most expensive could cost millions of merit points, and even the cheapest went for more than 100,000. Bai Xiaochun immediately fell in love with the idea of having a beast mount. After all, the cultivators he had seen in the city who went around on such mounts were all extraordinary figures. His desire etched in his heart, but unfortunately, he was worried that he couldn't actually afford one. Therefore, he waited a few days until he couldn't hold back anymore, and then spent over 100,000 merit points on a battle mount. To most cultivators in the city, a mount like this would be considered a luxury. It was fully 90 meters long, and looked like a fearsome crocodile. It had 3 eyes, was covered with armor-like scales, and had a cultivation base comparable to the early foundation establishment stage. When Bai Xiaochun sat on the back of the crocodile, he felt extremely grand and imposing. Its growling cry echoed like thunder, and ensured that he was the subject of much envy as he rode it back to his spirit abode. In a few days, I'll pick a new place to stay, he thought. This spirit abode doesn't fit me anymore. I need an immortal's cave, and the best one at that. Even as his eyes sparkled with pride, he realized that there was an orange-robed cultivator waiting for him outside of his spirit abode, hands clasped behind his back. He was flanked by 7 or 8 red-robed disciples, all of whom seemed energetic and ready to fight. In fact, they weren't suppressing their cultivation bases, which ensured that a weighty pressure filled the entire area surrounding the spirit abode. However, even the orange-robed disciple was only in the great circle of foundation establishment. As for the other foundation establishment cultivators, Bai Xiaochun could tell that they wouldn't pose a threat to him at all, so he ignored them. They looked at him, and he looked back at them. As for the orange-robed disciple, as soon as he got a look at Bai Xiaochun's face, his expression turned very serious. Everyone in the city usually suppressed their cultivation bases to the limit. However, as for this orange-robed disciple, with careful scrutiny, he could determine if a person was weaker than him or not. The only people he would be unable to assess would be people who were already in the great circle of foundation establishment, or higher. Currently, he couldn't assess Bai Xiaochun at all. However, it didn't occur to him that Bai Xiaochun might be in core formation. That was because, despite how packed Sky City was, there were actually very few core formation cultivators there. After all, with a gold core cultivation base, it would be a relatively simple thing to go on missions and earn the merit points necessary to be promoted to the Rainbow District. Well, this might be a problem, the orange-robed cultivator thought, frowning. Despite having run a background check on Bai Xiaochun, he hadn't found any information about him other than his surname. After a moment, he decided that, considering the level of cultivation base he was dealing with, he shouldn't beat around the bush. The ultra-fasting 8 pill was too important, and therefore, the best choice in the situation was to start out by trying to cooperate with its maker. His frown turned into a smile. As Bai Xiaochun neared, the orange-robed disciple clasped hands and bowed. Brother Bai, I presume, I am your humble servant Zhou Tao, a leader of sorts within the Celestial Sky Society. I was hoping to discuss the ultra-fasting 8 pill with you. If we cooperate, I think we can make a handsome profit. Translator, Deathblade, Chinese language consultant, Asi aka Bearblade. Editor, GNE. Memes, Logan. Meme archives, Toxin. Transcendent patrons, Daoist Elder N, BLE, TTRE 208. Or glossary, Xingxia inspired t-shirts. Hey everyone, I've had a lot of people mention that they don't use Twitter, so I decided to start mirroring my content on other social media. For the most part, the content will be the same as Twitter, so if you already follow me there, then there's no need to follow the other accounts. By the way, the new version of Wuxia World is coming, and I don't think there will be a sidebar with my Twitter feed, so please do follow me somewhere. I post about Chinese fantasy novels, Wuxia, Xingxia, life in China, stuff about the Chinese language, etc. For those of you who followed my Facebook page a while back, you might remember that it got deleted because I unwittingly violated the Facebook terms and conditions. So this is a new page that won't be deleted. Soon I will update the credits I include with the chapters to have these links, but for now, you can follow me on. Chapter 384, Schemes and Tricks. What do you mean work together? Bai Xiaochun said, looking down at Zhou Tao from his position atop the crocodile. Zhou Tao was not very pleased that Bai Xiaochun hadn't dismounted from the crocodile, but his tone of voice didn't reveal that as he said, your humble servant wishes to purchase the precious pill formula for the ultra-fasting 8 pill. Would you be willing to part with it for 100,000 merit points, Brother Bai? It's not for sale, Bai Xiaochun said, rolling his eyes. With that, he flew off of the crocodile, then swished his sleeve, causing it to fly into his spirit beast bag. Just as he was about to step into his spirit abode, Zhou Tao moved to block his way. Brother Bai, if you don't want to sell the formula, that's fine. But would you be willing to let the Celestial Sky Society be the exclusive dealer for your pill? Exclusive dealer? Bai Xiaochun looked at Zhou Tao for a moment. The truth was that going out to sell the pills on his own over the past few days had been a bit troublesome. If this Zhou Tao could do that for him, it would definitely save some effort. The Celestial Sky Society virtually runs Sky City, Zhou Tao said with a smile. Therefore, I am very confident that within a few short months, we could get your ultra-fasting 8 pill to every corner of the city. By that point, you would be able to make a huge profit without having to do any of the grunt work yourself. Bai Xiaochun thought about it for a moment, and then began to discuss the particulars with Zhou Tao. 2 hours passed, and they finally agreed that the Celestial Sky Society would buy the pills for 300 merit points, resell them at a high price, and then split any subsequent profits 50-50. Bai Xiaochun almost felt like he was taking advantage of them, but Zhou Tao seemed quite pleased. Smiling, they swore a Dao oath and recorded it on a jade slip, which they then sent to the Justice Bureau of the Starry Sky Dao Polarity Sect to make the deal official. Before leaving, Zhou Tao smiled and asked, Brother Bai, might I know your illustrious given name? Since we're partners now, I'd like to know a bit more about you. Bai Xiaochun stuck his chin up, waved his sleeve and loftily said, You can just call me Apothecary Bai. After a brief moment of hesitation, Zhou Tao smiled again and then took his leave. In the following days, Bai Xiaochun went crazy concocting medicine. Furthermore, he increased his daily quota from 50 pills to 100. That was his limit. Every time Zhou Tao came to collect the pills, he would simply hand over 30,000 merit points. As for the extra money from the profits, that would come later, after all sales were finalized. Another 7 days went by in a flash. During that time, the Celestial Sky Society's hard work ensured that the ultra-fasting 8 pill created a huge stir in the East District. The entire place was thrown into an uproar, and the cultivators there were going crazy. Although the prices were quite high, many cultivators bought them, and soon, the spirit food market began to drop. Before long, virtually all of the cultivators in the East District were talking about ultra-fasting 8 pills. Furthermore, the Celestial Sky Society made a point of crediting Apothecary Bai. As a result, virtually everyone in East District knew that the ultra-fasting 8 pills were concocted by Apothecary Bai, with the Celestial Sky Society cultivators being nothing more than dealers representing him. Bai Xiaochun found something odd about that, but didn't do anything to stop them from spreading his name. Eventually, Zhou Tao came to share the merit point profits, which was a sum of tens of thousands. When he said that such profits would only continue to increase, Bai Xiaochun got more excited than ever. Of course, what Bai Xiaochun didn't know was that after the Celestial Sky Society got the ultra-fasting 8 pills, their apothecary spared absolutely no cost or effort to turn the 100 pills into 3,000. Because of that, the negative side effects grew even more extreme. Over the course of the past week, Bai Xiaochun had given them 700 pills, but they had turned that into over 20,000 pills to sell. Furthermore, they didn't just sell them in the East District, they also sent them to the West, South, and North districts. As for Bai Xiaochun, there was no way for him to catch wind of that in the short time which had passed. For the first time, Bai Xiaochun had more than 200,000 merit points saved up. Excited, he finally decided to spend 100,000 of them to become an orange-robed disciple. The new clothing was very comfortable, and as he went around on his battle beast, he felt extremely grand. With his ultra-fasting 8 pill, he could easily dominate everything under heaven. However, even as he proceeded along down the street looking down upon all creation with haughtiness, he suddenly heard someone scream. Shocked, he stood up on his battle beast and craned his neck to see a cultivator off in the distance, writhing on the ground as his flesh rapidly withered up. Before he could even react, more people in the crowd suddenly fell to the ground, screaming as their bodies began to wither. Bai Xiaochun instantly started to get nervous. What's going on? Is the city under attack? He immediately sent his battle beast rushing back toward his spirit abode. Along the way, he was astonished to discover that dozens of people were falling to the ground and withering up. In fact, he even noticed that one of them was a cultivator who had bought his pill in the past. More than ever, he now felt that something strange was going on. Unfortunately, things were only getting started. The next day, even more people in the East District were suddenly struck with incredible, explosive levels of hunger. More than 100 people were affected, and already, the news was spreading like wildfire. Although no one had died yet, all of them ended up with damaged vital energy. Some could recover after a bit of rest, but for others, the injuries were more serious. Of course, the wrath of the cultivators was aroused, and as people began to look into the situation, it quickly became apparent that everyone who had been struck with sudden hunger and bondness, without a single exception, had consumed an ultra-fasting 8 pill. In terms of how serious the injuries to vital energy were, nobody paid much attention. As far as everyone was concerned, that didn't matter. Furthermore, thanks to the whisperings of certain individuals, people quickly began to lay the blame on Bai Xiaochun. These ultra-fasting 8 pills are fake. Apothecary Bai is a swindler. Damn it, things are already bad enough here. I can't believe someone would stoop to conning us. If there weren't strict rules here, I'd personally go and kill Apothecary Bai. More and more people began to fall to the symptoms. As for the friends and family of the victims, as well as the other cultivators who weren't affected, they all began to simmer with rage. Of course, there were people egging them on secretly, attempting to sway public opinion and stoke the fury which was building in the East District. The anger quickly began to transform into killing intent, and despite Bai Xiaochun being a gold core cultivator, this wasn't the river-defying sect. This was the Starry Sky Dao Polarity sect, a place where he was a stranger. Furthermore, he had nobody to protect him, and as such, the rising anger being directed toward him filled him with a sensation of deadly crisis. It soon reached the point where he was nearly scared out of his mind. Thankfully, he had experienced similar situations in the Spirit Stream sect and the Bloodstream sect, so before anything could actually happen, he packed his bags and fled into the night. Now that he was descending from the high of suddenly having so many merit points, it occurred to him that he had been well played by the Celestial Sky Society. Damn you, Celestial Sky Society. I didn't do anything to offend you people. Gritting his teeth, he sped along under the cover of darkness, feeling very sorry for himself, and at the same time, extremely irritated. To have been schemed against and then toyed with in such a matter was a huge loss of face, and the anger in his eyes soon began to burn brightly. Of course, he couldn't bring himself to just flee without getting to the bottom of the situation. Not daring to go confront anyone from the Celestial Sky Society, he found some of the people who had been struck by side effects, and did a bit of research of his own. Soon, he understood the truth. The ultra-fasting 8 pills these people consumed were altered. They weren't the pills I gave to the Celestial Sky Society. My pills might have some impurities, but the side effects should have been limited to minor damage to vital energy. Nothing that a bit of rest couldn't fix. Something that minor would be worth it in exchange for half a month without being hungry and having your energy drained. But the Celestial Sky Society changed my spirit medicine and made it far more harmful. They even reduced the effectiveness. Why would they do something like that? Gritting his teeth, he drew upon the power of his cultivation base to flee the East District and go to the North District. However, after arriving, it was to his shock that he found that there were also people there who had been harmed by consuming ultra-fasting 8 pills. By this point, a thought struck him like lightning. I get it. The Celestial Sky Society is the most powerful organization in Sky City, and they control most of the shops and stores. The biggest profits in the city come from spirit food, and the ultra-fasting 8 pills struck a huge blow to the spirit food industry. They came to me, not to work together to sell pills, but to completely destroy the reputation of my ultra-fasting 8 pill. The more he came to understand what had occurred, the angrier he got. Well, isn't this interesting? They didn't use magic or try to assassinate me, they schemed their way to victory. Well, Bai Xiaochun can play that game too. You just wait, Celestial Sky Society. You just wait. Gritting his teeth, he settled down in the North District.